Show. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on a Thursday afternoon in downtown Charlottesville. It's an absolute pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille Network, and boy, do we have a good show for you. The Jefferson Council is absolutely relentless with their microscopic, investigative, analytical coverage of the University of Virginia and its president, Jim Ryan. And now the Jefferson Council has published 7 very clear-cut reasons why Jim Ryan should be fired as president of the University of Virginia. We will relay those reasons to you. I think you can make a very legitimate argument that this is the second most intense period, challenging period of Jim Ryan's tenure, his term, his time on grounds at Thomas Jefferson's University. I'd say the most challenging, clear-cut, it's not even close, was the murder of the 3 football players. The second most challenging is probably right now, as we're still navigating the collateral damage of UVA Health, as the Jefferson Council has ratcheted up its intensity, as the Federal Executive Institute now has positioned President Ryan as almost a sacrificial lamb in the crossfire of educators in the city of Charlottesville. So I want to unpack the 7 reasons that Jefferson Council has published on its website, and they've launched a new brand, the Jefferson Council, called Reset UVA. You can find it online at resetuva.com. If you click the contact page, which I'm doing now, it clearly says this is an initiative of the Jefferson Council, as the Jefferson Council has created an offshoot brand to basically trying to reset the University of Virginia. I'm very curious to see how UVA responds to the offshoot brand Reset UVA, considering UVA owns the trademark UVA. So I would imagine the university, the first thing they're going to do is issue a cease and desist to the Jefferson Council with the brand Reset UVA that is making its way into old and new media alike. We'll talk about this story in depth on the Thursday edition of the I Love CVille Show. Monologues, dynamic with the 15-second marker. J-Dubs, thank you very much. We'll also talk on today's show about the city of Charlottesville getting a new attorney. Finally, it's only taken 8 months. And goodness gracious, the city attorney's coming into this job, ladies and gentlemen, as the city of Charlottesville is being sued by homeowners over a new zoning ordinance. The city attorney is John Maddox, the Asheville, North Carolina's city deputy city attorney. And it's interesting that someone's coming from Asheville to Charlottesville. I see a lot of similarities with Asheville and its progressiveness, its commitment to restaurants and to music and into the outdoors, its vibrancy, its culture with Charlottesville. I've always thought, and I love visiting Asheville. I love the brewery scene in Asheville. I love the nightlife scene, the walkability. I've always thought that Charlottesville was a smaller, miniature version of Asheville. Asheville, much like Charlottesville, has had an explosion in cost of living as it's become a coveted place to move to. It's in the mountains of North Carolina. It's got the seasons. It's got so many elements that are comparable to Charlottesville. And now it's got yet another link to CVille as Asheville's Deputy City Attorney John Maddox comes to CVille to climb the vertical ladder for him. John Maddox is the city attorney at Charlottesville, and hopefully to stabilize and right the ship of Charlottesville City Hall. Remember, Jacob Stroman was the previous city attorney, and he left the position after not even a year on the job. He was exonerated during an administrative leave portion, an undisclosed complaint against Jacob Stroman. He's no longer in Charlottesville, and for the last 8 months, there hasn't been a city attorney. I want to talk about this story on the I Love CVille Show. I'm going to talk 1,000 jobs coming to Goochland for an Amazon warehouse. Folks, the pros and cons of Amazon economic development should be highlighted. And you have Amazon infiltrating Central Virginia all over the place. They have the $11 billion investment in Louisa County with data centers, and now coming to Goochland. Be careful doing a deal of economic development with what could be an economic development devil in Amazon. I want to talk about that on today's show. And of course, the Federal Executive Institute protest is today at 5:30. Maybe some expectations from that protest, and we'll compare and contrast the old Ivy residences with the Verve and the Blume, and ask the question for you, viewers and listeners, which do you think is going to become most popular? Judah Wickhauer, studio camera, then a two-shot. I start the show with the same headline for you, my friend. Which headline or story do you find personally most intriguing, and why? Judah B. Wickhauer, jack of all trades.
I think that's a tough one between the new Reset UVA website that the Jefferson Council has put up, and more Amazon in Virginia. As our viewers may know, I'm not an Amazon fan, and I'm glad that we're going to be talking about not just the pros, but the cons of deals with the devil, so to speak.
Deals with the devil with Amazon, as one of the most powerful companies in the world, continues to infiltrate cities and towns and counties across the Commonwealth, as small business owners are screaming, please support us and stop sending your business to Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon dangles the proverbial carrot in front of elected officials, and that carrot, that electronic rabbit at the Greyhound racetrack, is new jobs, new development, and incremental tax revenue. But what is the damage done with dealing with the devil? We'll talk about that.
And is it worth it?
Is it worth it? First, the lead headline is the Jefferson Council, Judah, like a dog with a bone. Relentless in their coverage, their commentary, their analysis, their content publication on Jim Ryan, and a call to action of the Youngkin-led Board of Visitors to discard the president as if it was Tuesday trash day in Ivy and you were wheeling the dumpster to the curb next to the mailbox. Now, the Jefferson Council, co-founded by Bert Ellis, the fired BOV member, has 7 clear-cut reasons why President Ryan should be fired. They call them failures of leadership. The Jefferson Council has also created an offshoot brand called Reset UVA. You can find it online at resetuva.com, that succinctly outlines why the Board of Visitors should transition to a new president. First, the 7 reasons of leadership failure. Number 1, permitted UVA's egregious health system scandal, despite Jim Ryan being fully aware of its scale and implications. He permitted UVA's egregious health system scandal. Number 2, Jim Ryan mishandled a gun violation investigation, which tragically culminated in the deaths of 3 students. Number 3, he enabled the worst outbreak of anti-Semitism in UVA history, earning the university an F from the Anti-Defamation League and triggering federal investigations. Number 4, Ryan allowed UVA's historic honor system to deteriorate, stripping it of both meaning and effectiveness. 5, Jim Ryan instituted a political agenda under the guise of diversity, equity, and inclusion, severely damaging open discourse and UVA's sense of intellectual community. 6, Ryan sustained a climate of fear and retribution, silencing both students and faculty. And 7, he established the least transparent administration in memory, violating the Jeffersonian principle to follow truth wherever it may lead. We're going to unpack this. Judah's going to offer his commentary. Viewers and listeners, we're going to get to your thoughts. In a second blog post published on the Jefferson Council website yesterday, the Jefferson Council alleges that the honor system is so ravaged and raped by Darden students that there are multiple cheating incidents so scandalous in nature that the University of Virginia is refusing or sidestepping Jefferson Council FOIA requests to uncover the magnitude or robustness of the cheating at the Darden School. This is 2 days of publication, yesterday and today, that are damning in their coverage of the University of Virginia. Yesterday, a cheating scandal at the Darden School so robust and significant that the University of Virginia is doing whatever humanly possible to not release FOIA documents to the Jefferson Council. Today, 7 reasons why the council is calling on the Board of Visitors to pursue no new presidential leadership. And third, an effort from the Jefferson Council with an offshoot brand, Reset UVA, that is being positioned in legacy media like the Times Dispatch, outlining why Ryan should be pink-slipped. Judah Wickower, jump in.
I mean, yeah, they are
gracious.
They are on this like a like a dog with a bone. But to be fair, they have some serious they have merit. Accusations.
There's merit here,
and there is merit to quite a few of them. I take a little bit of
umbrage.
I don't know about umbrage. I think I'm not sure about number 2.
You don't think Jim Ryan's administration mishandled a gun violation investigation?
His administration certainly, but put that at his feet.
He's the president.
He may have, yeah.
There was red flag. There was. It was so many red flags with the triple murder prior to the actual triple murder that it was like a beach in Southampton, New York, on a cold, windy, rainy day when the ocean waves are so choppy and the lifeguards have red flags all over their stands saying, "Do not go in the water." There were red flags everywhere.
Okay.
You disagree?
No, I'm not saying that there were red flags. There weren't red flags.
You don't think a triple murder should fall to feet at the president?
Ultimately, yes.
He's the head honcho. I'm just trying to understand your position. I respect your position.
I question the fact that Jim Ryan should be personally aware of every little aspect of, and I could be wrong, but this seems like the kind of thing that he wouldn't necessarily be involved in until it becomes until there is tragically a triple murder.
Well, that's a travesty by itself.
Yeah.
That the president isn't made aware that there's a student on grounds that's been arrested prior, gun violation arrest prior, that is mentally unstable, that is threatening.
I think there were a lot of failures in the system, and just because there's a failure in the system doesn't mean it was personally Jim Ryan's fault that there was a failure in the system. Now, how he responded afterwards, and how we ended up with a extremely redacted investigation report, that I will definitely lay at his feet, no problem. But I'm a little...
Then based on your theory, then you have to lump the being unaware about the egregious health system scandal.
No, because we have perhaps not first-hand accounts, but we do have some unsigned accusations that the problems had been brought before him and he knew about them.
Fair rebuttal from Judah Wickhauer. I mean, the one I have an issue with of the 7 is Jim Ryan enabled the worst outbreak of anti-Semitism in UVA history, earning the university an F from the Anti-Defamation League and triggering federal investigations.
I think I agree with you there. I think a lot of the problem I have is just wording. I don't know that, like you said, I don't know that he actually enabled that.
Right, and I think the wording is it hyperbolic?
In some cases, perhaps.
There's some hyperbole here that is unnecessary with the 7 reasons. I understand what they're trying to do, the Jefferson Council here, but it's a bit hyperbolic with language choice. I will say that anti-Semitism has been a point of concern at the university, but definitely. To say it's the worst outbreak of anti-Semitism in UVA history is a fairly significant statement. I would say that it's certainly not the most significant outbreak of racism in University of Virginia history. And I understand that there's a difference between racism and anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is racism against Jews. Yeah. Where racism is intolerance against minorities in totality, generally people of color. So, you know, the 7 reasons, I get what the council is doing, and you got to think about it from the brains or the minds of the leadership of the council. They realize that it's now May 15th, and that Glenn Youngkin has about 6 months and change in office. Now in July, the board is going to be fully a Youngkin-appointed board, the BOV. And that's when you really got to see if change is going to be made on the way out. I mean, I've heard from very reliable sources that, in fact, someone sent me this text yesterday, an extremely well-connected individual said this: I'm hearing that Glenn Youngkin put a call into the White House to send federal executive to institute to UVA over Charlottesville City Public Schools. It's probably worth a FOIA or whatever is necessary to corroborate, but a friend of mine in D.C. has confirmed this is accurate. And this is an extremely connected individual sent me this text, an extremely significant heavy hitter sent me the text that it was Youngkin that led the charge of transitioning the Federal Executive Institute from Charlottesville Public Schools to the University of Virginia.
That seems odd, doesn't it?
I thought it was also odd.
I can't.
I thought it was also odd.
Fathom the reasoning behind Youngkin forcing the change, but
I think a more realistic scenario would be that the University of Virginia finally said, we will move forward with DEI, give us FEI, give us the Federal Executive Institute if we completely eradicate DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, from the university. There's some leverage there, but an extremely well-connected political insider sent me the text. They watch and listen to the show often. Evidently, the show that we do is watched and listened to folks in Northern Virginia and with ties to the University of Virginia, and confirmed that it was Glenn Youngkin that was, according to this well-placed source that is as close to it as humanly you will find, that Youngkin led the charge. Back to Jim Ryan, though. I mean, do we make a legitimate argument that right now is the second most challenging time of his term as president of UVA? Are you in agreement with me that the most challenging time for Jim Ryan was the triple murder, right? During the triple murder, post-triple murder, a gunman on the loose, murder on the loose on the lam, then the investigation that went on forever. That's the most challenging. Maybe you could say the second most challenging was right in the early stages of the UVA health scandal and or the pepper spraying of students during the pro-Palestine protest, which was about this time last year. Yeah. Right? It was this time last year because those pro-Palestine pepper sprayed students, they were saying you can't graduate or walk.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was also raining. That's why they had tents, and part of the reason why they were, there was a problem in the first place.
Conan Owen, and Conan, we got to connect here. I sent you a Facebook message looking for your phone number here. He said it could have been to sway fence sitters on booting Jim Ryan, the Glenn Youngkin. God, that would be Glenn Youngkin trying to really play chess. That if he reaches out to the White House and says, get Charlottesville Public Schools and get the federal government to renege on the FEI acquisition with Charlottesville Public Schools and give it to UVA for the idea that Youngkin would use that then as leverage to get Ryan out of Carr's Hill.
But can't Youngkin pretty much do what he wants
He absolutely can.
Because currently the rector is a previous appointee who's I believe Democrat.
Who? Oh, you're talking about of the BOV?
Yeah.
It's Robert Hardy. It's Rob Hardy. Yeah, he's about to be off the Board of Visitors.
Right. So once all 17 of the board members,
he already has a supermajority right now.
I know, but the rector leads
sets the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if they wanted to, he could do it right now.
So it seems a little curious that he would go out of his way to do something like this when really he's got the power in his hands to do it already.
Well, they have been Conan Owen. Good comment right there. Bill McChesney, welcome to the broadcast. 2 newspapers, 2 TV stations, and a radio station watching right now. Vanessa Parkhill and Logan Wells Kalelo, thank you for watching the program. Reporters that are watching the show right now, I would encourage you to take a look at the Jefferson Council and its offshoot brand, resetuva.com. I would imagine there's going to be a cease and desist on Reset UVA because the UVA brand is owned by the University of Virginia. They're very quick and very aggressive in protecting their marks and their intellectual property. I had a client, I'm not going to use the name of the client, that it's a significant business in town, that chose to wrap their vehicles, their work vehicles, and they had a couple of dozen of these, and with UVA branding that only made the university look really good. With university logos, UVA logos, that was only positive for UVA, and the cease and desist came, it seemed like almost overnight. And then I mentioned to the client, my counsel to the client was, do not do wraps here. They're aggressive in protecting their trademark. Do not do this. Coming from someone who has had to fight and has fought successfully with trademark infringement with I Love CVille, who's gotten significant paydays on 2 occasions with very big companies with I Love CVille. I said, do not do this with your couple dozen work vehicles here because the aggressive nature of the University of Virginia with protecting their IP is, I've seen it firsthand, and they slammed the door on them. And it cost them tens of thousands of dollars to rewrap their vehicles. And it left a very sour taste in the mouth of ownership. But they were counseled not to do it. Marlene Jones watching the program, she says, he will hang on until Spanberger is elected and removes Youngkin's more combative appointments. I think, Marlene Jones, you're talking Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan's whole strategy here, because there's no presidential openings in the Ivy League, Ryan's whole strategy is to duck for cover and stay under the radar until 2025 is over and Spanberger is elected. Anyone who thinks that at this point that the GOP has a strong shot of doing well in this year's elections is not reading the tea leaves correctly. Virginia has been ravaged by Trump in a lot of ways. So this is not about Trump, pro or con, but he's impacted the Northern Virginia economy, and that's a huge voter base. You've also had the John Reed scandal at Lieutenant Governor that fractured the party.
Yeah.
Absolutely fractured the party. I'd say Spanberger is a heavy favorite. And if Spanberger wins the governor's mansion, she eventually is going to start going in there and revamping the BOV. Now, Spanberger's going to have to wait some time. She's not going to be able to do this immediately because these are years of terms that they serve. It's not like a new governor can come in and just change the board. Now, Bert Ellis made the comment in our interview when we had Bert Ellis on the show that if I'm being terminated for malpractice or malfeasance, then other people will be able to be terminated by Spanberger if Spanberger wins. And that's why he was trying to put his financial support behind Earl Winsome Sears.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, if I can get fired for something like this by Youngkin, and Youngkin's my boy, I donated to him, and he appointed me. Imagine what would happen if Spanberger comes in here and tries to reshape the most powerful board in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, they basically set precedent and lowered the bar for being able to remove someone.
Right. I still haven't had a clear-cut answer on this. Have we ever seen a BOV member terminated? Midterm?
You're talking about locally or anywhere?
At UVA. Have we ever seen a board member terminated? A BOV board member terminated at UVA? I don't think we've ever seen a UVA board member, a BOV member terminated by the governor who appointed the member.
Yeah.
I mentioned that, Lonnie, yesterday about the Henley middle schooler that was tragically killed yesterday by floodwaters. And it was a tragic turn of events. Saddened me and my wife and our family. And I know families everywhere. It's, and I'm getting off track here, but once you have children of your own, your perspective for life is completely different. Because you live for these children and would do anything for them, so much so that you feel pain when they feel pain and happiness when they feel happiness. So much so that you feel pain when the children of strangers suffer tragic loss, tragic death, tragic pain. Like, I was overwhelmed with sadness yesterday for a 12-year-old little boy that I had never met and had no ties to. And why I was overwhelmed with sadness is because I thought of that 12-year-old boy as eventually our two sons will be a 12-year-old little boy. And you just want to protect them. And it's this very fine line as a parent of protecting your children without being a helicopter parent or overbearing or too papa bear or mama bear.
Yeah.
It's like the mama bird that kicks the baby bird out of the nest. Even though the baby bird may not be able to fly, the baby bird crashes to the ground. The mama bird says, this is what I have to do instinctually for you to rite of passage for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If you're just tuning into the program, the 7 reasons that Jefferson Council has published today and why Jim Ryan should be terminated. Number 1, he permitted UVA's egregious health system scandal. And I have heard through the grapevine that Dr. Craig Kent, the payday he got to leave was one of the most significant paydays in UVA history.
Golden parachute.
A payday with a non-disclosure agreement associated with it that basically has Jim Ryan, Craig Kent, under lock and key with what he can say. But he leaves with millions of dollars, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, was that discussed, do you think, during the Board of Visitors meeting when he resigned?
Well, my contact on this has encouraged those who like to do Freedom of Information Act requests. In fact, the Jefferson Council watches the program regularly. Jefferson Council, Jim Bacon and Jefferson Council, you should Freedom of Information Act requests the amount of money that Craig Kent got from the University of Virginia to basically leave and sign a non-disclosure agreement. And the NDA says, do not air our dirty laundry to anyone. Because the amount of money that Craig Kent got, that I have been told, is one of the most significant paydays that will jaw drop anyone that hears or reads it. The 7 reasons the council has said Ryan should be terminated. He permitted UVA's egregious health system scandal. 1, he mishandled a gun violation investigation. 2, Judah pushes back on 2. 3,
more on the like we talked
the
about.
word choice.
More on the word choice.
3, enabled the worst outbreak of anti-Semitism in UVA history. I push back on 3 on word choice.
And I agree with
4, allowed UVA's historic honor system to deteriorate. 5, instituted a political agenda under the guise of DEI. I think that is a very accurate one, number 5. 6, sustained a climate of fear and retribution. If Jim Ryan 6 sustained a climate of fear of retribution, that is what Craig Kent was alleged to have done.
Yeah, and if Ryan knew about it and didn't do anything, or
no, they're saying he did it.
I know, but we all know that that was basically him enabling Craig Kent to continue in his actions.
The reason why the Craig Kent one and the UVA Health one I also push back on is Craig Kent had a history of doing this at his previous employer, Ohio State, and yet the Board of Visitors still appointed him CEO of UVA Health. So the accountability falls on the Board of Visitors, who appointed Craig Kent as CEO of UVA Health, as much as it does Jim Ryan. I get that Jim Ryan's the president, and when the shit hits the fan, it's going to fall at the doormat and the feet, the loafers of the president.
Right.
But we have to remember that Craig Kent was appointed to the BOV, or appointed to the CEO of UVA Health by BOV.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Board of Visitors share an accountability there as well. And 7 on that list established the least transparent administration in memory. And then yesterday, if you want a very provocative read, look at what the Jefferson Council published yesterday about a cheating scandal that is maybe the most significant wave of cheating incidents in University of Virginia history. That is infecting the Darden School. Cheating is infecting the Darden School almost as if it was COVID at an old folks' home.
And what is it with UVA launching investigation after investigation after investigation and then not releasing the findings? And how much of the cost of those investigations are you and I paying for?
Oh, I think you and I are paying for it all. You and I, the viewers and listeners, that's not coming from the endowment.
Right.
You and I and the listeners are paying for that. Taxpayer money. That's
a problem for me.
Yeah. I mean, just like the taxpayers are paying for the lawsuit with the new zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
Why do we not have a tangible number of how much the new zoning ordinance lawsuit has cost taxpayers with this third-party law firm that's defending the city until the new city attorney, John Maddox, comes to Charlottesville? Why don't we have that number? Why has anyone at Legacy Media not figured out that number? John Blair watching the program. Jerry, remember, Glenn Youngkin's got to keep the donor class happy. The donor class of the GOP has a lot of UVA ties. Also, the GOP base has no use for Charlottesville Public Schools. So you would have a GOP donor class wanting the governor to help UVA and a GOP base that has no problem sticking it to Charlottesville Public Schools. So there's another reason from John Blair of why my source is saying, a very connected source in the game source, that Glenn Youngkin was the guy that led the Federal Executive Institute to be transitioned to the University of Virginia and have the federal government renege on Charlottesville Public Schools. And he's come up with another reason here. John Blair's a smart guy, that Youngkin's got to keep the wealthy happy, especially if he wants to make a run for president. And the wealthy have ties to UVA and no ties to Charlottesville Public Schools. Another quality comment from John Blair watching the program. Conan Owen has this comment. Does the supermajority want to boot Jim Ryan? Remember what happened when they got rid of Mother Teresa Sullivan? Conan, Mother Teresa's good. Yeah, when they booted Terry Sullivan, when Helen Dragas, the Virginia Beach developer who was the rector at the time, when she initiated a coup, behind the scenes, wheeling and dealing to get Terry Sullivan canned, in large part because Terry Sullivan would not roll out Coursera, which is an online learning platform. Dragas's whole concept was UVA was going to go worldwide with its brand, rolling out a digital learning platform where professors were going to teach on this platform and get students enrolled from all over the world. The leadership led by Terry Sullivan, faculty led by Terry Sullivan, who's an OG style faculty. Remember, Terry Sullivan is a teacher at first, professor first, who understood the game of politics and climbed to the president of UVA. But in fact, she's still employed by UVA. She's still earning a sizable multi-$100,000 a year paycheck as a professor at the University of Virginia. But she revolted against Helen Dragas and Coursera and said, no, we're going to teach our students in brick and mortar, in classrooms and lecture halls. And Dragas didn't like that because Dragas is accustomed to getting what she wants. Dragas leads a coup, fires Sullivan, and the faculty says, you're not going to fire Terry Sullivan. We aren't going to teach any students or go to work. All the faculty members galvanized and basically revolted Dragas and said, we ain't going to teach students, and if you don't have us, you don't have UVA. And then Dragas basically had to walk it back, and she looked a fool. She looked like a fool. And then Terry Sullivan got reinstated. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what happened there. So Conan is saying, even if they have a supermajority, is anyone really want to fire Jim Ryan for fear?
Yeah. What's his loyalty like at the school?
Yeah. I would say his loyalty with faculty is significant.
No doubt.
Would you not?
I would say it likely is.
Faye Cox Gutierrez, great to see you as well. William McChesney watching the program, his photo on screen. I believe Glenn Youngkin is behind a lot of stuff at UVA. Randy O'Neill, universities in Virginia are mostly masquerading as educational institutions to be revenue streams for more than a few self-serving insiders in health, real estate, and now NIL. Deep Throat, number one in the family. If you as a trademark holder do not defend that mark, you can lose the mark. So sometimes even the use is not a problem per se. Their holder has to be aggressive. That is an absolute fact.
Yeah, I would also question whether using UVA counts as using the logo.
I'm confident that UVA is trademark. I'll put it in perspective here. I had a client.
But you can't just trademark the use of those letters.
You can, okay, I'm no lawyer here, but there's a lot of elements that goes to challenging, that goes to trademark infringement.
Yeah.
The Reset UVA brand is not just Reset UVA, but it's got a picture of the rotunda. It's got orange and blue in its logo. It's got mentions of the president, Jim Ryan, multiple other mentions of UVA, a storyline of a turn of events that are terrible for the University of Virginia. It's got every reason to challenge this. And you got to remember, the University of Virginia has got to, as Deep Throat said, as someone who owns a mark, USPTO mark, you have to challenge when someone uses it or you risk losing it. On top of that, UVA's got the financial resources to just drag this up into court with lawyers and to bleed the council, Jefferson Council. Jefferson Council doesn't have the financial resources that UVA does. So if you're the University of Virginia, you just bleed them. You say, I can make a convincing argument, and I'm no lawyer, and neither did I, and I certainly did not say at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Okay, I am taking creatine on the regular. Did you know creatine is brain juice? It's good for your brain. It's the most studied supplement in the world, creatine. I'm 2.5, 3 months into creatine, and what I've noticed from taking creatine each day, take creatine and protein, I mix it in skim milk, and I pound it every morning. I've noticed that I am not as sore. I'm recovering from exercise much faster. My brain is sharper. I'm sleeping better. I feel physically better. I have more energy. 90 days in on creatine. And I think you have a sample size or enough data to kind of reflect or analyze on what the experience has been like. It's been a fantastic experience so far. Okay, and back to Reset UVA, I would think the council is going to be challenged by the university. But they've put this Reset UVA brand now in the Richmond Times-Dispatch. All right, next headline. Should we go to, I guess we got to highlight the protest today, right?
Yeah.
5:30 p.m. Goodness gracious, protesters got some fantastic weather. At 5:30 p.m., it's going to be a partly cloudy with some specks of sunshine and not much humidity, as hundreds of protesters are going to be camped out outside the Federal Executive Institute, illegally parked in Barracks Road Shopping Center.
They certainly got lucky. As early as I think yesterday morning, it was still showing rain on today, Friday, and Saturday.
If I was the University of Virginia, if the University of Virginia wanted to be vindictive, if they wanted to be vindictive, they'd have an arsenal of tow truck drivers, or they'd fund an arsenal of tow truck drivers and have those tow trucks ready to tow the vehicles that are illegally going to park at Barracks Road Shopping Center ahead of this protest.
You said UVA should?
UVA could put in some phone calls with the various tow truck companies and said, we'll cover the cost for you to camp out and watch these people as they park their Priuses, their Subarus. Certainly not their Teslas.
Not anymore.
Not their Teslas. Their Priuses and their Subarus.
And if any of them do own Teslas, I'm sure they're leaving them at home and catching a ride with a friend.
They're parking their Priuses. You're going to see a 200 Priuses towed out of Federal Realty-owned Barracks Road Shopping Center today around 5:45 p.m. That would be effing hilarious if you saw 250 Priuses towed out of Barracks Road Shopping Center. Someone pop your popcorn. Outside of the Federal Executive Institute, the primary gateway into the University of Virginia, as the parents of graduating fourth years and graduating, master's in business, MBA students, law students, as their parents come into town for graduation weekend, they're going to drive by hundreds of protesters who are flocking the Federal Executive Institute with signs that say, UVA steals from children. This is so insane. There's some kind of crazy gas that is in the ground of Charlottesville that makes people cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Insane.
No doubt.
And I've cautioned the protesters, and I've said you shouldn't be doing it this way. You're backing UVA in a corner, and when you back the most powerful player in a corner, the response is, it's never going to be good. As someone who's a deal maker, how we make our living is brokering deals. The hard negotiating is, I had this conversation with clients late last week. Clients that are purchasing commercial real estate in town. The hard negotiate, the line used, you're going to get this, they're going to get this done, the other side's going to get this done. Jerry, you tell the other side that they're going to get this done, or we're walking. Exact words. And I responded back, hard negotiating generally is a loser tactic. Responded just like that. And it caught the client of mine off guard by me responding that way. I said instead of hard negotiating like that, consider this tactic instead, which is not as aggressive with negotiating the strategy, but still get you what you want. And after some thought, they're like, okay, let's try it your way. And the way we tried it completely worked. It was an acquisition. There were some tenants that were lingering despite estoppel letters issued, lease termination notifications issued. Remaining tenants wanted to linger and stay post-closing.
Wow.
And client said, you're going to get them out or else. And I said, no, I don't think that's the right approach. We want to renovate the building. On day one after closing, we're going to have our contracting crew go in there, and the noise to renovate the rest of the space is going to be so loud and awful that they're not even going to be able to operate their business. And that's exactly what happened. And within 36 hours of the contracting project starting, the noise, the termination, the tenant had moved out.
Yeah.
And that was without a hard negotiated. It's just smart.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it
No
unemotionally.
No threats, no...
Thinking about it unemotionally. That's how you make deals right there and still get what you want. All right, next headline. What do you got, Judah Wickower?
Let's see. Next up is city attorney.
All right, this is just a quick one here. We have a new city attorney. He comes from Asheville, where he was the deputy city attorney. His name is John Maddox. The city press release says John Maddox's application for admission to the Virginia State Bar has been approved. And upon being sworn in by the Virginia Supreme Court and appointed by Charlottesville City Council, he will formally assume the title of city attorney. It's been about 8 months. Nice. Jacob Stroman, he pieced out after an investigation. He retired in September. He was exonerated during administrative leave, probably given a chunk of money to walk away. And now we have a new one. Finally. Welcome on board. You're right in the middle of a lawsuit with some homeowners.
Join the fun.
Yeah, get welcome.
Get comfortable.
That lawsuit's been going on for 18 months, almost 18 months. Get ready. You got a lot of reading to do.
No doubt. Next
headline, Jack of all trades. What do we got?
Amazon.
All right. This is a deal with the devil. Set the stage with Goochland and what's going on. Gosh, we have newspapers from Charlottesville and Richmond and Lynchburg watching the program right now.
Goochland is set to get a 3.1 million square foot fulfillment center that should supposedly create 1,000 jobs. And this is, I believe, like maybe the 10th fulfillment center in Virginia. And Amazon is quickly becoming one of the larger employers in the area. Whether or not you find this good or bad, certainly the building of the fulfillment center will require construction crews. It's definitely going to create temporary jobs as it's built, and then once it's open, which I believe is slated for 2027, they'll hire people to work there. Whether or not those are great jobs or not.
Well, you're doing a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
Amazon's doing $11 billion in Louisa County for data centers.
Yeah.
And that $11 billion has some positive.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a ton of jobs. I've been told by a supervisor in Louisa County that it's about 1,000 jobs.
For the data center? For
the data centers in Louisa, 1,000 tops.
Yeah.
And not all of them are great jobs.
Right.
The second thing we're doing is, whether we realize this or not, is we're just strengthening the top retailer in the world.
Yeah, no doubt.
A retailer that is cannibalizing the little guy. I'm watching, what is it, the show on Amazon Prime? Titans, I know, God, I know. I can't get away from it. Titans of the Economy. What's the show called? I can't believe I just said that. What is it? Okay, it's called The Rise of Wall Street. The Rise of Wall Street. It's on Amazon Prime. It's very good. Titans, the Rise of Wall Street. And then it covers J.P. Morgan. It covers Goldman Sachs. Little Lehman Brothers are in there. It covers J.P. Morgan's passing and his son Jack Morgan taking it over. I'm on like episode 4 here. I think there's 8 episodes in all. I learned from this that at one time Sears Roebuck was the Amazon of its time.
Yeah, they had the catalog. I mean,
The Sears Roebuck catalog and its epicenter, its headquarters in Chicago, was doing what Amazon is doing now. They had a what's the system that Ford Motor utilized? Henry Ford utilized the system with efficiency. I'm drawing a blank on this.
say that again.
Henry Ford, Ford Automotive. He had that efficiency.
You're talking about like.
Come on, you know this. Can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this. This is so ridiculous. Revolutionized manufacturing focus system with this assembly line. Sears Roebuck had an assembly line so efficient at its Chicago headquarters that Henry Ford visited the Chicago headquarters multiple times to gain intelligence and inspiration for Ford automotive manufacturing.
Nice.
And the catalog with Sears was so significant and so impactful in the early 19th century throughout much of the 1900s. I mean, Sears at one time with that catalog, you could buy a single-family detached house.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of them around Jefferson Park Avenue in the Fry Springs neighborhood. You can still see the Sears style houses to this day. There's some of them in Belmont as well. You could buy standalone homes in Sears catalog, folks.
Yeah.
So Sears in its day was what Amazon it is now. And Sears in its day put the small business owner in a precarious position. And Amazon now is doing the same thing. Thank you, Carol, and thank you, Kevin Yancey. Ladies and gentlemen, when we welcome the fox into the hen house, which is what we are doing with Amazon in Louisa County, with what we are doing with Amazon in Goochland, elected officials are being tantalized as if they were a greyhound at the track and a machine rabbit that they will never be able to catch. The greyhounds are chasing. And they're being tantalized with 1,000 jobs.
Yeah.
Economic development. $11 billion. Data centers. These catchphrases.
Yeah.
But all that we were doing is giving the devil more spirit and giving the average Joe more kryptonite. We're kryptoniting the small business owner while we are supermaning the devil. That's what's happening here, folks.
Yeah. And with these data centers, we're also going to have to deal with sharply rising needs for electricity, which is going to affect our electric companies like Dominion.
Which is going to mean that Dominion's going to have us by the short and curlies even more.
Which is eventually going to trickle down and affect the rest of us.
Exactly. Because Dominion's going to have more leverage.
Or they're just going to have more needs, and they're going to offload the extra costs onto the those of us who live here.
James Watson watching the program, super smart guy. James Watson's photo on screen. He said, apparently Jeff Bezos is fascinated with Sears. There are several Sears homes in Belmont. I've seen them. He's right. There's some Sears homes in Fry Springs as well, guys. James Watson also says, fences and sheds you could buy in that catalog. Not sure how Sears didn't continue to modernize, though, and eventually found themselves irrelevant. Sears, one of the biggest mistakes Sears made is not taking that catalog and that market share and digitizing it.
I think a lot of what happened to Sears was getting infiltrated and gutted.
I think a lot what happened to Sears was overextending themselves with brick and mortar and these massive square feet and malls and shopping centers. When they started doing that, they spread themselves financially too thin, and they did not digitize that catalog fast enough.
Yeah.
I mean, geez Louise, didn't Amazon started off with what? Books, right?
Yeah.
Books. Mm-hmm. Now you can buy anything you want with Amazon. Eventually the world is going to be left with what? Walmart, Target, Costco, and Amazon?
Potentially, yeah.
It's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 4 primary retailers in the world, Walmart, Costco, Target, and Amazon, they're going to have so much leverage over us. Then you can have price fixing. You could do so much collusion.
Wait till Amazon remembers what Sears was doing with the selling houses online, basically.
I'm pretty sure you can already buy a house on Amazon.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to Amazon right now. I'm pretty sure house. I'm just going to Google house. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you can buy
Amazon house.
You can a 40-foot house with luxury design with 3 bedrooms, 1 living room, and 1 fully equipped bathroom and kitchen. $19,900. You can buy a house on Amazon. Legitimately, you can buy a house on Amazon. You can get a prefabricated mobile pop-up tiny house for $11,000. There's multiple houses that you could buy on Amazon right now. Insane.
Yeah.
Amazon today is what Sears Roebuck was 100 years ago?
Up until probably
50 years ago?
Much more recently than that.
Insane. Next headline. What do you got, Judah Wickauer?
Let's see. Old Ivy.
All right. I mean, this is just a conversation for your cocktail and charcuterie party. Thank you, Rob Neal. Thank you, Vanessa Parkhill. Which is going to be the most popular? Now, Deep Throat makes this point. He makes this point. It's a good point. The Old Ivy residences, which are 525 units, in comparing and contrasting Old Ivy versus the Verve, which is the one next to Stadium Road,
Yeah.
and Blume, the one next to Moe's Barbecue, he says you can't really compare Old Ivy residences to the Verve and Blume. He says there are very different market segments. Old Ivy is not so much student, where the Verve and Blume are very much student-centric.
Yeah.
He says, let me offer a different observation, though. Man, is Greystar moving fast. Leaving aside whether you like the project or you do not like the project, you have to admit they have gotten a tremendous amount of work done in a short time. Blume, which is next to Moe's, they seem to be moving very fast as well. That's what you get from national class, world-class developers versus local yokels and hobbyists. 303 Alderman Road literally hasn't moved at all. Those are the luxury townhouses in Lewis Mount neighborhood.
Yeah.
How many Nicole Scrow projects are out there in limbo? The idea that local infill developers can do anything meaningful is very doubtful. That's Deep Throat right there.
Yeah.
I will say this. The 303 Alderman Road project, which he's right, is a standstill. I drive by there and I just park my car and I walk around and I look inside the windows and I see the luxury townhomes that should be delivering sometime this year, which clearly won't be delivering anytime soon. That project was not well researched. It wasn't well researched by the owners of the project. Is that Evergreen? Not throwing shade at Evergreen, but I think they, with the benefit of what they know now, regret purchasing 303 Alderman Road. Evergreen Home Builders, ownership history. They bought it in June of 2024. God, we're approaching a year since Evergreen spent $835,000 on a rancher in the Lewis Mountain neighborhood. And nothing has happened besides some inside demolition. Yeah. Now, Evergreen could have researched the covenants and restrictions that were in place, because our sources in the Lewis Mountain neighborhood said that the neighborhood is going to die on the mountain, die in the hill of covenants and restrictions, and enforce those covenants and restrictions and the density or lack thereof that goes with them, that they will die on that mountain fighting it. Evergreen also had some bad luck with this new zoning ordinance and the fact that you have these plaintiffs that are suing the city. I mean, legitimately, who's going to do density with the new zoning ordinance or any project when the zoning code could get reversed? And one judge in Northern Virginia saying on the record to media that any project that was done under a new zoning ordinance that could be challenged and flipped, those projects may have to be torn down.
Yeah, that would be rough.
So Evergreen got bad luck with this lawsuit, and then Evergreen didn't do significant or historical or robust enough research on the covenants and restrictions tied to the Lewis Mountain neighborhood and 303 Alderman Road. And also to Deep Throat's point, the old Ivy residences are less student-centric. I'll ask this question.
Yep.
Which is going to be the best? Sorry, I just moved your camera. The Verve or Blume? Next to Moe's Barbecue or next to Scott Stadium? I have an answer on this one. What is your take? Should I do the tail of the tape first?
The tail of the tape?
Yeah, you want me to give you the tail of the tape?
Okay.
The project next to Scott Stadium, Verve, the developer is Subtext. They're a national out-of-market developer, 100 Stadium Road, 463 total units, 1,332 total beds, and they're going to be completed in spring, summer 2027. Blume, it's a developer, up-campus student living. The developer is national, out-of-market. The location is next to Moe's, 2117 Ivy Road. Total units 231, total beds 641. Delivery date spring, summer 2027. So both these projects are coming online at the exact same time. Verve is significantly larger. 463 units and 32 beds, 1,332 for Verve versus 231 units and 641. I'm also Deep Throat going to go with the Verve as the one that's going to be more popular for the following reasons. The amenities associated with the Verve are going to be way more sexy than the amenities associated with Blume.
Blume seems like it's very much going to be like a, I don't know.
It's going to be an apartment tower.
I could be, yeah, it's going to be a block.
It has to be a straight up because the parcel is smaller than a stamp.
Yeah.
It used to be a bank. Mm-hmm. They're building 400, and props to up-campus student living. They're building 231 units and 641 beds on a post stamp next to a barbecue joint.
Yeah.
There's going to be no amenity. There's going to be very little amenities. What's the amenities offered at Blume? They're saying it's luxury. How the hell are they going to have parking for 641 beds there?
They're not.
And for people to say, for the activists in the community to say, oh, they're not going to have cars, bullshit. That's absolutely not true. Mm-hmm. If you're a luxury student renter and you can afford $2,500, $3,000, or $3,500 a month in rent, your parents are going to have a Mercedes or a BMW, the hand-me-down Lexus, the hand-me-down Highlander, the hand-me-down X5, the hand-me-down C-Class for you to drive around Charlottesville. Look around, guys. The UVA students have cars. It's the hand-me-down luxury vehicle of the parent. Just look around. It's not a hand-me-down Prius. Protesters at FEI today. It's too easy. You're saying it's a low blow?
Yeah.
You're saying it's a low blow?
Priuses and Subarus.
Priuses and Subarus. Crunchy. Activists. Right?
Más y menos.
You disagree?
No, I don't disagree.
The Prius has a stigma.
Yeah, it's got a stigma.
It's got a stigma. The Subaru, less of a stigma than the Prius.
Definitely.
The Prius stigma is political. The Subaru stigma is more tree hugger, crunchy, environmentalist. Also, the Subaru got the tailwinds and the boosts from the Consumer Reports that said it was one of the best all-around buys. You look at the reviews out there from Consumer Reports, and Subaru is one of the best all-around buys. Bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Deep Throat says the location is better for the Verve as well.
Yeah.
All right. Is that the last story? Is that the last headline today? We got to go make some money. Huh?
That's it.
That's it? All right. Job well done. Bill McChesney, the majority of residents and other developments on Old Ivy are older people that have left single family. The corner at Ivy Tower was a service station before it was a bank. He also says Amazon is getting into automotive sales. All right, that's all she wrote. That's a Thursday edition of the show. I thought we did a pretty good job today. We went an hour and 45 minutes without stopping. Judah Wickhauer is doing a great job. I really like when you offer your commentary.
I really like when you allow me to offer my commentary.
You can do whatever you want.
Not when you're making a 30-minute rant.
Just interrupt me.
Sure.
Jump in. I want the pushback. I want the friction. I crave the pushback and the friction. You know that. All right, we got to go make some money. I think I got to... I ended the show yesterday. The wet signature versus the digital signature with these closings. The wet signature is so frustrating. So frustrating. All right, Judah Wickhauer, Jerry Miller. So long, everybody.